do that as much as possible. But I just want to introduce the subject of Google getting a search engine presence and all that stuff with one simple idea. That idea is the database of intentions, and that is an expression that was coined by John Battelle. John Battelle is a very, very unique influencer online, knows a great deal about search engines and other stuff, and he came up with the following concept. More people use Google than almost any other website. More people use Google to search than use anything else. So, because of that, Google knows more than anything else what people are searching for, and because of that, Google knows what people want. Google knows what humanity wants more than anyone else. And more than any other time in history, this amount of information is all put into one place. Several million users are using Google every day, and other search engines. Google is the most popular one by far. I think it at least doubles or triples the amount of searches per day that Yahoo has, which is the second one, and MSN, which is the third. And so we've got a bunch of all smaller little ones from that point on. Google is gaining, MSN is losing, and Yahoo is losing, because Yahoo and MSN are more about being portals, being about access to a bunch of other stuff, and Google provides, by far, the search experience that users in general on the web want. So, you want to be here. The reason that you have "I'm feeling lucky" is because people trust Google more than they trust anything else. You know what I mean? You can click on "I'm feeling lucky" and there's a good percentage chance that what you want will show up, assuming you know how to search. And so this is a session about making sure that when people search in here for their deepest desires or for their whatever they're searching for the moment, that you are somewhere in there. The reason that I know a fair amount about this is because I've been podcasting for a little while, but after a little bit of time, I started figuring, I was like, where's this traffic coming from? All accidental, random stuff that I didn't think about, that I didn't realize, and then I realized what I had accidentally hit upon, and I was like, oh my God. And if you, I mean, you can take a look at a bunch of sites, and there's a massive difference, and you can tell when a site is, is well represented in Google and when a site isn't. Now, the first thing you guys need to know is if you are podcasters, you are at a massive disadvantage. Google hates you. It doesn't care who you are. It doesn't even know who you are. You're speaking in English, and Google speaks in English too. But it doesn't care because you're not speaking in text. Google is about text. Search is about text. If you are not using text, you're screwed. This is not a joke. You need to resolve this. I mean, there's a number of different ways to do it. So, I mean, one of the main things that you need to think about is the fact that the web works around text and the web works around hyperlinks. Now, I mean, you can get a podcast promo on in somebody's podcast that's massively popular, and that might help you out a little bit. But the fact of the matter is Google still doesn't care whose podcast your promo is on. Your podcast promo can be on 100 different podcasts, and Google is like, so what? I don't care. So get in here. First thing you need to realize is that Google is getting smarter. You can't deceive Google at all. You can only do your best to please it, and it's not a matter of trying to, I mean, people used to use tactics in Google on their websites in order to deceive search engines into coming to the page for a variety of reasons that were totally irrelevant in the end, and now Google penalizes you for that. If you're using old techniques, you will get banned. So be careful with what you learn. You can't stuff invisible words onto your website anymore. You can't do stuff like that. You have to be honest with Google, because Google really knows more about your website than anybody else. And it's knowing more and more and more, and it understands how language works and so on. The first thing I would incite you to do as a podcaster is to start dealing in text as well. Every podcaster, in my opinion, should be a blogger. You don't need to be a big blogger. You don't need to blog all the time. But you need to have words on your website, words that Google understands. It's very important because if you do not, all it's going to look at is a media file that it can't decipher. You want Google to be on your side. So, I mean, how do you do that? There could be a whole other session on being a blogger and how it's going to work. And I mean, that would help you out. But this is more about general subjects than anything else, general topics about how to get involved. Number one, just make sure that Google can understand you, and as much as possible. If you can, get transcripts of your show. There's a number of podcasters here that get transcripts. I'm one of them. I think Mark, but maybe Canadian Podcast Buffet. There's Chris Penn. People that in general are aware that Google wants more information. You get your podcast transcribed. It's cheap. If you could afford it, it's maybe under $5 per episode. And it means that instead of what most podcasters have as show notes, which is 0, you have 1,000 words, 2,000 words, 5,000 words, or whatever. Just make sure that as much as possible you're getting involved. The second thing you need to understand is that because the big difference between books and the internet is hyperlinks, that an entire economy is being built around hyperlinks. When you have links coming in and links going out, that builds traffic in both ways. I was thinking about it recently, and one of the things that came to mind is the fact that in a time of recession, with the just economics in general, in a time of recession, people don't spend money. They are careful with their pocketbooks. They leave more amounts in the bank, and because of that, the recession can get worse. So what the government does generally is it incites people to spend money. Everybody knows this if they've been around for a fair period of time. I'm not as old as I look. In a time of plenty, when there's a lot of money in the economy, people spend more. When people spend more, what ends up happening is that the economy grows, and it sort of feeds upon itself as a virtuous circle. Take that and place that on the internet, except you're not spending money, you're just using links, which is the economy of the internet. If you are not linking out, that means you are a miser of links. Everybody links out to you, you're not linking out, you're just on your own. Don't be out on your own. Link out to other people. Don't just talk about them on your podcast. If you talk about them on your podcast, Google doesn't care. You want people in general to know you're talking about them. You have to do it with hyperlinks, etc. It's super important. How many people here are on LibSim? How many people here are podcasters? Okay. How many people here are on Blogger? Is it? The best thing you can do for yourself, after making sure that you have some form of text on your site, is to make sure that you own your own website, that you get your own server. I love Libsyn. I know almost everybody that works there. However, I would incite you to use their audio, their hosting, in order to put your audio files on there, and then to get your own website, and then work from that. Don't work from their blogs. In the same way, don't work from Blogger blogs. WordPress.com is another thing. You could maybe use that. But I guess the real big thing is own your content and make sure that, that people have an idea of, just in general, make sure that it's yours. Because once it's yours, at that point, you can modify things, you can make sure. The average blog is not made for search engines either. It almost kind of disregards them. People recently on the internet more and more are saying things like, oh, it's really all about great content, and once you have great content, everything else just fits into place. And while that is true, and a number of people here are producing amazing content, people that I personally know, and only people that I have heard, we all know that we all struggle with an audience. And we all know that we would like to have more, and so it becomes a matter of reaching people in different ways. This is my website, which I'm not doing for publicity purposes. I'm just showing it to you so you can get an idea of, in general, the big differences, what it is you should be doing, what it is you should not be doing. This is a WordPress blog. WordPress is the most, malleable and most easily malleable of all the content management systems that do blogs. Libsyn cannot be modified in the same way. Blogger cannot be modified in the same way. If you can at all, and you haven't invested a massive, massive, massive amount, 2 years or whatever, of content into a Libsyn blog or something, I would incite you to get your own website and put WordPress on it. It's very simple to do. Once you have it, you can take control of what's going on. So, I mean, one of the things that you'll notice if I go to, who here has a Libsyn blog? What's your URL?
Rambling Russ.
Rambling?
Russ.
Okay.
.libsyn.com.
Rent?
Rambling Russ, R-U-S-S.
Okay.
.libsyn.com.
What's the last word? I'm sorry?
Russ, R-U-S-S.
Russell.
Thank you.
Libsyn.com.
Libsyn.com. Yeah.
.org as well.
Oh, I never tried to do
They
it.
both work. Or not.
It's not a fancy fish.
There we go.
Okay.
Excellent. So here's Rambling with Russell. Look what happens when we go from the main page, which is just ramblingruss.libsyn.org. We've got up there something called the title tag. Who knows what a title tag is? Anybody? Half the room. Okay. If you guys don't know, I mean, at least a little bit of HTML, I would urge you to learn a little bit to understand what a title tag is, because that thing right up there, that little thing that nobody looks at anymore, is the most important thing that you can change on your page. It is massively important, and it's, if you look at, and again, I mean, this has nothing to do with the people behind Libsyn or whatever, it's just they don't think about search engines at all. No matter what happens, it doesn't change. The title of this episode is Ramble with Russell, episode 38. But that's not what it shows up in the title tag. It just shows Ramble with Russell podcast, no matter what I do. If I go into the archives, maybe that might be different. Let's take a look. No, it doesn't even change. If I look on a Blogspot blog, who has a Blogspot blog?
Bum Rush the Charts does Blogspot.
Can you show us?
Bum Rush the Charts.
Oh, yes, of course.
Can you show us where the title tag is again?
Blogspot.com.
It's the thing that says Burn Rush the Charts.
You guys have heard about this, I'm assuming?
Highlight it.
No, Bum Rush the
Show
Charts.
with your mouse the title tag is on the screen so people see what you're talking
Oh, yeah, right. Up up here. This is the title. I'm terribly sorry about the clarity. So, Bum Rush the Charts is the title of this page. When you click on Welcome, which is the title of the blog post, take a quick look once it goes over. It says Bum Rush the Charts, space, welcome. So one of the important things to understand is that title tags are probably one of the most important things that you can control on your blog. Most of the things that you can't control are people linking to you. The more people link to you, the more important you are. Google knows that. It looks at people and it goes, how many links does this person have going inward? What subjects are they from? And so when somebody searches for your podcast, they look at it and they go, okay, so now I kind of understand the importance of this blog, the importance of this podcast in the greater scheme of things. So that you can't control. You can't control the number of links. The people linking to you has a lot to do with content, but on your own page, one of the reasons you don't want to have a Blogspot blog that controls it is because it doesn't say welcome as the first thing. The closer to the left it is, the more important it is. It looks at Google and it says, Google looks at it and says, well, okay, so this is Bum Rush the Charts. And so the only thing this is going to rank well, assuming all other things being equal, is Bum Rush the Charts, nothing else. So no matter what I place in here, I could have a thing like my wife died. My wife didn't die, I'm not married. I click on here, but it doesn't matter because it's always Bum Rush the Charts and then my wife died afterwards, which again, she did not, and you know, sorry if anybody happened. So take control of the things that you can by owning your own site. The distinction, again, by going to your own site is that you want to make sure that, and again, this isn't exactly full of keywords or anything, why am I doing out in the cold? But when you go to the top, you can see that, yeah, that's the only thing that's there. So I can rate high for whatever it is that I decide to put in the top, right? Now, keep in mind, being in search engines is a competitive thing, you know? But at the same time, putting yourself out there in the right way is something that, I mean, you have to do it. Everyone out there, no matter what niche you're in, no matter what kind of podcast you have, there are people looking for you. There are people every day typing hip-hop podcast into Google and finding you. There are people every day typing Pets Podcast into Google and hopefully finding Marco, etc. But if you are not doing your utmost, then you're losing out, but only because you don't have the necessary information. So this is one of the things that I said, as usual, you can control. At the top here, social commentary and hip hop. You know, so now, for example, I can type hip hop podcast into Google here, and there we go. So I'm number 3. Up here is number 1. Why is that? One of the reasons is because I never talk about hip hop on my blog because I'm too diverse. I don't like to talk about it. I just like to play the music. My show is not really about hip hop, but nonetheless, at least I'm ranking number 3, and that has something to do with the fact that people are linking into me, saying, "Hey, this is a hip hop podcast. Go and check it out." So when Google looks at the links, it says, "Hey, obviously other people think that this is a hip hop podcast. Therefore, I will make this person up at number 3." Now, this person, on the other hand, is number 1. Very likely because there's more music on the show. I've only listened to the mixtape show once. The other reason is because if you click on here, you can see that that hip-hop is talked about all over the site. Google looks at it and goes, "Oh yeah, there's a bunch of hip-hop on this site, and there's people linking to it." So that's going to make a difference, you know what I mean? I've got a... who here uses Firefox? Good for you. Download something called SEO for Firefox. Download it today. SEO for Firefox is a search engine optimization tool which is free. It is a plugin that you can put into Firefox, and then it'll let you do something like this. When I go to the mixtape show here, I can right-click or command-click and go highlight keyword, and I can type in whatever keyword I want. No, Firefox. Oops. So it'll highlight hip-hop every time it's done. You know? Another thing you can check is how much hip-hop is there in general on this site. You can right-click and show keyword density. What percentage of hip-hop is there on this podcast? In the title, 14.3 of the words in the title here at the top is hip-hop, as can be seen here. It gives you all the information that you need in order to be able to assess, you know, like, hey, somebody's ranking higher than me, why? Doing this manually is a pain in the ass. The fact is that Google and the people who work at Google are much smarter than probably everyone in this room except for Chris Penn. So the rest of us are at a disadvantage, which is unfortunate, and so we need tools like this to do it. The people that built these tools built them for free. The guy who built this SEO for Firefox thing, it's a guy called Aaron Wall, who is a search engine optimizer. He's a very smart man because when you look at SEO for Firefox, you're like, wow, that's a great tool. I'm going to talk about it on my blog. You link to it, and bang, you're linking to his site. He built it for free. He goes, anybody else that wants to use this, please. And everybody starts linking to it. So now, when you type in over here on Alexa, which is...
You should get links for this one, Julian.
Sorry?
You should get links for this. Everyone's downloading it now.
Yeah, download it right now. If I click on traffic rankings and I type in SEO book, which I will in a second, this is just an estimate of traffic. It doesn't actually tell you the actual traffic. It is the 993rd most popular site on the internet. Does somebody here want to volunteer and put their thing in? I don't know. Okay. I don't want to read that.
Don't humiliate
Suffice
us.
it to say, not a chance. Type it in on your own time. But the point is that it's doing things like this that help you get up there. This proves even further, the SEO for Firefox thing, why people linking to you matters. And why, if you're only producing a podcast, nobody knows who you are, no matter how good you are. Podcasters know, because podcasters talk amongst each other, but it's a big circle jerk, part of my language. Other people need to find out. Please, put it out there. If I were you, I would stop producing podcast promos. I would start working on building communities and building trust with people in your group of websites. If you do a hip-hop podcast, talk to hip-hop bloggers. You know, if you do a show about pets, then you can get involved on other pet sites. Too bad Marco has the biggest pet site probably on the internet, but I mean, even so. You know, so other people should be talking to him and saying, hey, what's up, you know? And so that's what I'm saying, is it pays to get out there. Stop thinking in audio. Start thinking in text. As much as possible. Blog. You know, produce your podcast. The podcast is a valuable thing, and emotion is probably stronger in audio than in any other format on the web. It's probably stronger. I mean, no matter how many free hugs this guy is giving out, I mean, there is a strength. There's a strength with audio that cannot be beaten. I think everybody here understands that, or they wouldn't be podcasting. And so, just please, don't shoot yourself in the foot. You're doing it every day. If you're not blogging, if you're not involved in other communities, if you're not being on forums, if you're not leaving comments on blogs, if you're not reading blogs, then you're dead. You should just go to whatever else is going on out there. Start reading blogs, start commenting on blogs, all that jazz. Get involved. Google knows if you're important or not, and you can't fake that. You can fake that with everybody else. I'm like, hey, Mitch, what's up? I'm huge. You know? But I can't fake that with these people. Google understands who you are, everything, you know? It understands all that jazz. And so, my God, it's like this topic is so huge, I could go on forever, but I will stop, and I will invite any of you that have any questions, anything I probably should have covered but haven't, to let me know what's up.
So, if I want to get myself to, so you're saying that using Libsyn as a way of recognition, it's great to put the podcast out, but I should have a separate page.
100%. And again, I love Libsyn.
Yeah.
You need to take control of your site. It's not built for blog.
Can you recommend a web page building software that doesn't involve learning all the bleeping HTML code, and
Yeah.
you can just put things together?
WordPress.com provides you the same tools as Blogger does. The same stuff except online, and generally the same access. Chris, am I right? You can still change the PHP code and stuff like that? And
Parts of it. Actually,
not as
with
much.
WordPress.com, no, it's hosted, so you can't edit the theme beyond simple customization, but you can download the software and install it on your own laptop or have someone do it.
Yeah,
for you.
right.
And then with Blogger, you can customize it as long as you have your own website. It'll publish to your own web server.
Right. So it can publish to your own
Web
website.
server, yes.
Okay,
which
but-
is what I do.
But
Yeah.
if you don't want
If you don't know
have
how.
a web server,
Yeah.
and, you know, and see the good thing about Libsyn is that you don't have to have your computer on 24/7. You don't have to.
No, I'm sorry. No, a web server is not kept at your house.
Okay.
All right.
pay
So
for that.
does everybody know that? No.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
A web server is not kept at your own house. I understand that's probably something that people, the average person knows, but
By the way, you can also use Google applications. They offer now free web hosting.
oh, really?
Yeah, google.com/a.
No way.
Julian, maybe an interesting question to pose right now is how many people are hosting on Libsyn?
Yeah, how many
for their
people-
web, for not just their audio, but have a blog site that's
Yeah.
pulling their
Okay, well, hold on a second.
Yeah, that's the
Right,
thing.
let's, first of all, if you do not know how to do a lot of this stuff, you're probably already very busy and there's a lot of stuff. The fact of the matter is it does involve a little bit of work. Now, the minimum you can do, if you do not want to do the work, if you want to stay on Libsyn, for example, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
if you want to stay on Libsyn, you want to stay on Blogger, and you don't want to move all this onto something else, and you don't want to learn because you don't care and you have other priorities, which is perfectly reasonable, the next thing you can do is get involved in your community. The best thing you're doing, by the way, is being here.
Right.
Because if you would not be here, nobody would know who you are. In this particular circumstance, you would be absent from this conversation. Nobody would link to you in relation to being here. So if you cannot control the content management service that's on your site, because you don't own your own site, the next thing you could do is get people to link to you.
Now, I've had, with Libsyn, with the blog page, you can go into the advanced settings and play with the HTML a little bit, and I've customized mine to a certain extent,
Yes.
beyond what their little stupid little template is.
Mhm.
And I've always encouraged people that if I guest on their show, please put a link to my site
Yes.
on their webpage.
Okay, yes.
Now, even though I'm on a service like Libsyn, is that still, would that still recognize as hits, as popularity with
It
Google?
absolutely is.
Okay.
One of the reasons that you want to have your own domain name is that when people are pointing, they're not pointing at Libsyn, making Libsyn more popular, they're making you popular.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everyone's pointing at Libsyn and is like, oh wait, I want to move. Oh wait, now I have 0 links on the internet. www.internet.com, you know what I mean? Like, nobody knows who I am anymore. So that's another reason. It has to be yours because if you want a web presence for 6 months and you got a web presence for 6 months, sure. If you want a web presence for life, invest.
Yeah.
Because also with your domain name, you can point it. If you're with blog.
That's absolutely
you can
correct.
point it
Yeah. Do you have a domain name, your own? Rambling
No,
Russ?
I don't know if I really have my own. No, not really.
Why are we? What is?
Now,
We would know.
Why
it.
not? Go register for $10.
Rambling
I'm
Russ.
registering right now, some people
Yeah.
20. Go ahead.
So you start getting people to point by domain name, whatever it is.
yeah.
I'm gonna flush GoDaddy right now. But if you buy a domain name and get people to point to that instead,
Yeah.
then at that point you're developing your own thing instead of getting people to link. But the disadvantage to that is even when I type in Rambling Russ, it's going to send me to ramblingruss.libsyn.org, at which
Yeah.
point I'll grab the link from there, link to you, and oops, I'm looking at Libsyn accidentally. You know what I mean? I want to field other questions, but I have time later.
Okay.
So we can talk about this.
All right.
Yes?
Linda Mills from Podcast User Magazine, and my question is sort of just a statement because I was asked to ask a question because I've got somebody in the UK right now
Yeah.
who's another co-founder who I'm on Skype with who is on the feed. Jeff! Anyway, one way to really keep yourself going is to keep getting your name out there.
Absolutely.
And just in things like this. So I want to remind everybody that we are streaming, so when you say who you are, say what, you know, what your
Yeah, what
show
your thing is, right.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Okay, that's it? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Linda is right. Getting your name out there and becoming known, and this goes back to the personal branding thing, which if you missed it, I would urge you to somehow connect with Mitch again to watch this presentation. Getting your name out there is huge. Getting people to link to you once when you do an interview with them is one thing. But if you become a personality in their head that even when you're gone, you still talk to them, hopefully some people, you know, this happens. And it's not, you know, hopefully I'm not crazy. But it means that they'll be thinking about you. The first time they'll be like, oh yeah, Julian hip hop. Oh yeah, Julian. Hey, I was thinking about Julian. Link. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Think about that. Anybody else?
Also, if you're looking for like some immediate great link love, like blog roll and pod roll, and make sure that it's reciprocated. Like, you know, Julie and I link to each other. That creates tremendous Google juice. Like Google loves that because it's constant. It's on every page and it's always there in your blog. So don't be shy to do a blog roll and pod roll too. I find it so valuable for my.
To append to what he was saying, as well, if you do not have a blog and you have a static page on your front page, I would change. The best thing that you can do for yourself is to have a constantly changing homepage, so that people are always changing, clicking to something new.
If you scroll down on my page, I actually put links
Yeah.
to every time I do a show, when I talk about a site, I put a link to it.
And that's very good. It always needs to go further.
Yeah.
Always take it to the next step. It doesn't have to become a full-time job, although sometimes it feels like one to me. But it becomes always do more than the next person. Anybody else? My God, okay. All right. I'm going to go to the back because you're right next to him. It's just, I'm sorry.
That's no problem at all.
Julian, Mike Howe, New Media Videozine.
Yeah.
Just wondering about Dig or Technorati, getting links from them and back and forth.
Yes.
Is that a good idea? Or
Dig and Technorati?
Yeah.
In general, in order to be able to help your site out and so on?
Dig has podcasts.
Social networking is a whole other subject. However, in order to, and we're talking about Dig and Technorati and other things like that, you have to keep in mind that, yeah, okay, you put your site on Dig Podcasts. Even so, even though Dig is a very powerful site, it's not hugely influential. Dig is not about podcasts. You want podcast sites to link to you. You want sites, what kind of podcast do you have?
It's New Media Videozine. We talk about the new media industry, and we have another one called Blogger.
So anything that's in your niche. When people are involved and you listen to other podcasts because you're like, hey, he has really good information about the same kind of stuff I like, that's the guy. Whoever you're thinking of right now. Anybody else? Marco? Wait, I know you.
Well, it was a suggestion more than
Okay, what is it?
just because you're talking about domain names and keywords,
Yeah.
that for people that don't already have their own domain name, that are going to register their domain name, I would suggest that maybe it's helpful to have the domain name relate to their subject. Would you agree?
That is true. It is not a massive priority. But more people than now, like, I mean, okay, Marco owns pets.ca, so I mean, he's got it kind of made a little bit, you know? But, so for people, more people, however, will do the following: Pets Podcasts, like this, then we'll type in petspodcast.com. Most people don't do that anymore. They used to. That's why when you typed in, you know, when you had www.internet.com, or you had, you know, hiphop.com or whatever, you were sitting on a gold mine. People are doing that less and less now. Now they're going into Google, Pets Podcasts. You know what I mean? And there's Marco on number 3 right here. Good job, Marco. So, just in general, a domain name is a good, especially if it has keywords as what people search called keywords in it. You know, Financial Aid Podcast is a great example. It's got everything he needs in the domain name. But if Financial Aid Podcast is taken, you know, it's still about getting links in. It's still about the way people link to you. Even if your Financial Aid Podcast is at, I don't know, WeSlitOnTheCeiling.com, it doesn't matter as long as people are pointing to it going, this is the best financial aid podcast.
Should you have the word podcast in it?
No, absolutely not. It's not about, you cannot convince Google by buying a domain name that you have a podcast. Everyone else is already telling Google that you have a podcast. It doesn't need to know. It knows what you're typing and what you're blogging about. It knows what everybody else is saying about you. Google understands English and every other language on a level you cannot comprehend. Yeah, you're laughing, but it's scary. Because it understands everything. You can't convince Google of something that is not true. That's all it is. In the back.
Can I just add, if somebody just mentions your podcast and doesn't link to you, but even just mentions you, is that good?
We just say on the podcast itself?
No, like in the text of their blog, like they just mention.
But does not link to you. That means nothing. Zero value. Okay. If that person is at least somewhat friendly with you, or an acquaintance, at least to be like, hey, would you mind linking to me? And that will actually, because then Google is going to be like, oh, yeah, all right, that's that. Okay, great. On the next one.
Hi, my name is Maureen McCabe. I'm in corporate, and so
Yeah.
a lot of the stuff you're saying, I think, applies more to entrepreneurs, small business, because the corporate policies don't let you link to the other big sites, competitors. So, what's your advice or direction for the corporates on, you know, the
Triangle change or policy?
I think that remains true, no matter what it is, whether it be, you know, for small businesses or whatever. All of these things are equally relevant to everyone. But I think that for corporate podcasts or for corporate sites in general, one of the best things that they can do for themselves is have a site that is well built, that has things. I mean, this is huge. You know what I mean? Search engines and search engine marketing is a whole subject that we could talk on for days. There are conferences about it. But one of the most important things that you could do right now is you can make sure, again, the way people are linking to you, what they're saying, when they're linking to you, stuff in the title tag, and what your site contains, that it contains the keywords that people are searching for. Somebody I don't know. There we go. I'm sorry for the people I do know. Yeah, okay, Mark just...
Sorry, it's just related to this. Maybe someone can answer the question. How does Google handle links to somewhere within your own site compared to somebody linking to you? Because that might be beneficial for you.
Yeah, that would be.
Anybody know that?
Oh, yeah, I can.
Go for it.
I'm Alan Knapp, by the way. I do a lot of search engine optimization.
Great.
Internal links are important as well as external links. There's two different parts. So what Google tries to do is, first of all, links to your site because they can go to all sorts of pages. So the most important page on your site is this page that has the most links, both external and internal. So it's generally your home page. Unless you have a flash intro page where you never link back to from your site.
At which point you're shooting yourself in the foot again.
Right. So that's why it's important to get all those links and have a sound information architecture. And on that note is what Google also values, and all the search engines do, the words in the link. So it's not just a matter of saying it's
what
a pen.
People are using.
Here's my podcast. Well, it's a link about a podcast. Well, give the subject matter of the podcast in the link.
You can control the anchor text, which is to say the link text, then you can't control it because you can't control other people's content. And I mean, there's a whole other subject there.
That's a whole other, that's a bunch of building links.
But if you can in any way control, be like, please link to me using these words, I mean, without going overboard, then that will help you out for whatever it is that people will.
Or if you have your blog that supports your podcast and you're linking to it, put the subject matter of the podcast in the link.
That's right.
Not just saying, here's the podcast. Click here for podcast.
Please go.
I was just going to say, Susan Mills here from University. I was just going to say, Drupal Media's Search Engine Optimization Conference is coming up here in Toronto. I think it's either April or May.
Yeah.
And they run a 3-day conference, and they cover everything from on the page and off the page, and external and internal hyperlink strategies and meta tags and title tags. So, like, if you really want like Bootcamp 101 for search engine optimization, it's a great conference to go to. Whereas we're talking podcasts.
Okay, there's one closing comment that I wanted to place. We were mentioning stuff about meta tags and so on, and search engine conferences, search engine marketing or optimization conferences are a great place to go to learn. And every time, if they say, pay $400, you say, yes, sir, thank you very much.
Yes.
Because it is worth its weight in gold. It really is. And another thing is that don't trust everything you learn on the web. Because people that built websites in 1997 still have that content up in which they told people to deceive search engines. If you do that, you will get banned. If you get banned, you need to buy another domain name because forget about it. If you are trying to deceive Google, if anybody tells you to do what they call black hat search engine optimization, or they tell you to, just in general, anything they tell you to try and deceive Google or whatever, just be like, it's really fine. You can stay perfectly clean, and it is a long-term process. You can't have it overnight, but over time, you can build something that is real and strong, and you're not going to become the 993rd website on the internet. If any of you are, I would like to meet you right now. But you will get up there, and it happens a little bit at a time. It's not instantaneous. Don't think it is. But put some effort into it. Learn a little bit more about it. I think we have time for maybe one more question, but we're already over time. So I mean, if anybody.
Just back on the Google, what does it do with traffic, like templates, things like that? Would it beat the alt tag?
Yeah. It's not really. It's old methods. Those things are not as important as they once were. People talking about meta tags, especially meta keyword tags, it's like, why are you even bothering?
I'm talking more about the traffic links and the alt tag on the graphic.
Yeah, it's still, I mean, there's something there.
It's 0.
0 now?
It's 0 with Google.
Okay, all right. It depends on the search engine.
Last 2.5 years.
Some search engines buy stuff that Google doesn't buy anymore, and I buy. I mean, they place emphasis on it and some place not. So is being said, and I believe it. They're like, because you can really use stuff that is in alt tags to really be like, I'm going to place whatever in here because it doesn't appear on the page technically. So you could put 50 keywords inside an alt tag. Hopefully, some of you understand what I'm talking about. And because of that, Google is like, too prone to abuse, gone.
No penalty, just not used.
Yeah, no penalty.
I guess it's kind of a rock and a hard place because using the graphic link, you can get people to do that.
Yeah.
Have more because people are more likely to follow those.
Well, the link is still a link. It's just a link with nothing.
Right.
So there we go. Anyway, anybody that has questions, I'm available all day. Terribly sorry if I didn't get to.